Normal? What makes you think I'm normal, Blackjack? I have nightmares. The old flashbacks. Every time I came to 69, I paid a mare to let me sob into her chest for an hour or two and call her mommy. Then I'd pay twice as much just to keep her quiet. Crybaby reapers are a liability, she said with a grin, but I saw past it into her eyes. Sometimes I'll go into a place and I can just see the looks. The I can fuck you if I want look. I wear jagged steel armor and I'm as strong as 3 ponies, and I still get that look. So what I want to know is, how are you so normal? Huh? I heard from P21 and Glory. You were a glazed donut, by her account. I smelled the blood and spunk. Probably still can on the seahorse. So why aren't you a cringing ball of terror around males? I looked at her flatly. I think we should hurry up and go. But she jumped in front of me. No, really. What's your secret? I mean, you probably had 4 different cocks in your ass and mouth. Look, we don't have time, I murmured, going red. I mean, did you choke or swallow fast enough? Rampage, I don't want to fucking talk about it. It happened. It's over. Fucking drop it. I mean, to get that plow to be perfectly fine. Shut the fuck up, Rampage! Or did you have it a little... I smashed my hooves into her face. Shut up! And suddenly I couldn't stop. I had to kick and kick and kick again. Her blood splashed over me as a dark rage suddenly flowed out of my brain like boiling acidic blood. I hated her. I hated her for picking open the wound. I hated her for being wounded in the first place. I thought that I could just ignore it, that I had gotten lucky and it hadn't affected me, that somehow I'd owned that dreadful hour back on the seahorse. I wanted to smash her to pieces. I wanted to hurt her as badly as I'd been hurt. My fingers found a brand new function as they locked against her throat and squeezed with every bit of force that I could muster. She'd never ever hurt me again. Never. I'd tear her head off before I let her. I squeezed harder, feeling the cartilage give and listening to it crackle. And then I looked down at her battered face and crushed neck and jerked my hooves back. Pink light flashed as her injuries healed before me. In another pony, I imagined Glory or P21, Scotch. I sat down, glad for the rain. So glad for it. She looked up at me with a sure smile as she healed. Sure. You're just fine, aren't ya? She rasped with soft sarcasm. I'd been raped. I wasn't okay with it. I was also damned angry. I wanted to kill some pony. I was scared that it'd happen again. And I was ashamed. No matter how I tried to rationalize it, no matter how I tried to make it sound like it'd been preferable, the fact was that I'd been hurt. Hurt bad, maybe forever. I wanted to shake, but everything was a damn calm inside of me, aching. Rampage groaned and rolled onto her belly. Ow. Therapy isn't supposed to hurt this much. Rampage, I stammered in horror. She sighed as she looked at me. You didn't do anything that any mare or buck who's been through that wouldn't have done. Slowly, she rose to her hooves and shook herself. You have a nasty tendency to repress yourself. So do I. So does P21. But you need to know these landmines are there now, because otherwise some pony is going to come along and step on them, and it's going to be ugly. Right, I murmured softly. Victim. I was used to thinking of other ponies as the victims. They were the ones who hurt, and I was the one dealing with addressing it. Victims were weak and helpless, like dusty trails caught in the crusher. Ponies to be saved by ponies bigger and stronger and nicer, like me. Was all my supposed heroism just an excuse to feel superior? I couldn't say for certain, but the thought had me shivering in my synthetic legs. I looked at the blood speckling my hooves, and imagined it coming from one certain Pegasus. The Knight in 10 pony had been wonderful, no question. But sitting here now in the rain, I thought back. One wrong touch, one reckless moment, and I could have hurt Glory just as badly as I had Rampage. The thought nearly floored me, and I looked back at Glory and, way over by the wagon, barely visible through the rain in the distance. Think Celestia, none of them seemed to realize what I'd done. That's why you were able to talk to P21. And you couldn't. And that's why I can talk to you like this, and about this, and Glory can't, she said quietly as we continued towards the tents. No offense, but couldn't you have waited till after we pulped Sanguine? I've gotta say, your timing stinks. Why'd you let Citrine spout off to you like that? She asked with a nod over her shoulder back at flank. She was right, I muttered. She was hurt, and you knew it. And you know hurt, Blackjack. There's a difference between hurt and right. Her pain didn't make her right. If pain were all it took to be right, then every half-baked raider in the wasteland would be in the right doing whatever they wanted. We're all victims, Blackjack. The only difference is what we do with our hurt. She nudged my rump with her own. That'll be 50 caps for one 3-minute wasteland therapy session. I couldn't help myself, laughing softly. So there is a therapist in the wasteland. You bet. Helping you makes it easier for me to repress and ignore all my own fucked upness. She laughed. I shook my head as we reached the little encampment, and several things struck me at once. There was only about 20 or so ponies sitting around the fires. At once I took in their grubby and gaunt appearances. It didn't match their clothes. These looked practically new, and their weapons still had the sheen of manufacturer's oil. Boxes of pre-war food were stacked in heaps, but for the overabundance, the ponies just sat in circles around their fires, humming one continuous tone. A tone I'd heard before. I sat down with a sensation of horror creeping over me. I glanced beside me at Rampage and imagined her covered in whole cadavers. P21 as a bloody tyrant, his own daughter a breeder, and Glory. Glory made a thing. I wanted my heart to pound. I wanted to gasp for air. I wanted to scream. Rampage was saying something as I fell on my face, hugging it, trying to black out the thoughts, trying to stop the noise. I'd seen exactly this, heard exactly that. It had been a dream, hadn't it? Or had it been some kind of vision? Had it even been my dream, given how mutated my body was at the time? Then I heard the faintest voice, a little chime, quiet and pure, filling my ears. Slowly I lifted my face and looked around for the source, but I could see none. Rampage knelt next to me, shaking me. Hey! Hey! You okay? Should I get Glory? Should I start with the mayhem? I struggled to clear my mind and think as those two tones fought inside of it. Gradually, thankfully, both faded and I pulled my wits together. I looked at Rampage and slowly shook my head. A part of me really wanted to open fire. There was something fundamentally wrong with that note. But I couldn't kill ponies just sitting there. No, I said. I'm fine. It's all just a little creepy. From the look on Rampage's face, she didn't believe for a moment that I was telling even half the story. This, maybe, was the worst I'd ever see her worry. You sure? Yeah. Let's just go talk to them. I need answers. Well, okay. Just let me know when to start the rampaging, she said with a familiar wide grin, and only a fading hint of that worry had gone. I steeled myself, facing the encampment again, and stepped forward. A brown earth pony approached, all welcoming smiles and apparently paying no attention to my episode. Something ugly growled at the back of my mind. He was too clean, too well fed. Welcome. I'm Augur. Have you come to join the faithful? I looked at the corkscrew cutie mark drilling through a heart. I suppose this was a step up from his old life? Faithful? I asked as I looked around at the humming ponies. What? Them? His smile faded a touch. The faithful have come to this city of wonders to be saved from the horrors of the wasteland. Soon the doors shall open, and we will return to a world of plenty and paradise. He immediately reached over and scooped up a box of sugar apple bombs. Please, accept this blessing of plenty from the hoof. I took the box in a hand and looked at it skeptically. On the one hoof, I was really leery of anything accepting from these ponies. On the other hoof, the box looked unopened. I could eat rocks and rusty old cans, and I was hungry, and these were sugar apple bombs. Well, the hum probably wasn't contagious through food. I shook the cereal into my mouth and chewed. My eyes popped wide. Even for sugar apple bombs, these were good. Where did you find this? The city guided me to an old recharging station in which we found that treasure. Treasure? You have no idea, I said around a mouthful. This was the best of the best cereal ever, and I was hitting my snacky perfectly. I licked the powder off my lips and then frowned. I looked at the box. Something was off. You said this was in a recharging station? Indeed. The city will always provide to the faithful, Augur proclaimed. Food for the hungry, ammunition, weapons, and barding for our protection. Even potions unravaged by innovation. This box is new, I said softly. Rampage frowned and leaned towards it. No fading, no dust, no warping. The cereal inside tastes new too. A miracle of the city, a bounty for the faithful. You know, in my old stable we had machines that could make food like this. Oh, sure, not as good or as varied, but yeah, food from machines. I shook the box between my hooves. What I want to know is where the machines are. Clearly not the way he wanted my line of questioning to go. The glories of the hoof are not for us to question or to ponder, he said in a faintly hurt tone. If you are not prepared to join us, then I suggest you should take our gift and leave. But I would suggest you not begrudge those who have so very little and have suffered so very much. I don't. But I do question where such plenty comes from, and who's pulling the levers and why, I said as I stood. Thanks for the cereal. I picked up the box in my mouth. He hadn't sounded like he'd been hiding something. A true believer, I guess.